want to go back, man, and just talk about, your story a little bit, and just kind of take our listeners, on the journey, of Zach Wilson and kind of where he's been. So I want you to go all the way back, and I want you to think back to when you were like 9 or 10 years old, right?
Okay.
And I want you to share, what was your dream job growing up? What did you dream of being? Because typically we don't dream of being in this industry. What did you dream of being?
9 or 10 years old. I think you could have found me with a basketball in my hands at all times. So I was really tuned into, basketball. That was really my thing growing up. Outside of that, man, I flopped all over the place. At one time I wanted to be a teacher. At one time I wanted to be in business, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I saw a lot, growing up, just south of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, living with my family. And I don't know, do you want me to dive into kind of how I was brought up and kind of how my story? Okay. So born and raised in a small town called Claysville, Pennsylvania. And my father, Jim, my mom, Susan, I had my brother, Jacob, and then my sister, Letty, came along later. And, man, you never realize what you see as a kid, and then it resonates with you in life, right? Mm-hmm. So my dad was always involved with us. My dad worked at a college right up the street in Washington, Pennsylvania. He would come home at night, whether we had practice, whether it was basketball, football, whatever. He coached. He would take us there. He'd come home, and while we all got ready for bed, he went downstairs and he actually did upholstery work. So redoing couches, chairs, draperies, awnings, things like that. And he hustled because he wanted my mom to stay home and raise us. So he did everything he could to make ends meet. And it's funny because you look where you're at now and you look back at your childhood, right? And you see that stuff. And I saw it from a young age, like coming back to look at it, like, man, dad was doing whatever he had to do. He didn't miss a practice. He was, going to work. He was doing extra stuff just so we could have the things we needed growing up. Mm-hmm. So that was really, really big for me. And along with my mom, man, my mom was at home all the time, made sure, we were well taken care of. Fast forward into that, let's get into middle school. We opened up a cafe, and instead of me, just saying, oh yeah, cool, like my mom and dad own a small little restaurant or whatever. No, I was in there working since I was 14 years old. And it's sometimes I just didn't want to go, but like I knew my mom would make me go, right? Like, hey, you got to go. But now I think back and look at it, man, it taught me how to talk to people. It taught me how the meaning of earning a dollar. It taught me how to count money. It's a crazy thing now that people don't know how to count back change. But I saw all different aspects of that stuff, man. So I was working since I was like 14 years old. The only time I didn't have to work there was during basketball season or football season, but I would usually go in on the weekends. So like during my childhood, I would say like my parents were a huge influence on me growing up. Being the oldest of 3 siblings as well, they all look at you. So that was always something that stuck out with me. Then I went through, high school, college, went to Kent State University, and then I moved to Cleveland shortly after, and, had a couple of jobs, and then I was a college recruiter. Okay. I get married. I adopt my, now 14-year-old daughter. So it's me, my wife, 14-year-old daughter, or at the time she was 2.5, almost 3 years old. And two weeks after I got married, I got let go of my job being a college recruiter. And it was simply for the fact is they got too big too quick. And they had to make some cuts, and I was low man on the totem pole. So a couple weeks after that, I got stir crazy sitting at home trying to collect unemployment and do all this stuff and find another job where insurance was calling. So I picked up the phone, answered a call from a supplemental company. Was kind of iffy about it, but on my honeymoon, which was literally 2 weeks before that, I had met a guy named Chad, and I'll leave his last name out of it. But I knew he was in insurance. So I called him and said, hey, what's up with this insurance stuff? And I told him the company's name and things like that. And he was trying to tell me, like, you can make a really good living off of this. If nothing else is calling, what else do you have to lose?
Right.
I said, you're right. You know, I got a wife who's not working. I got, you know, a daughter too. I locked myself in the Parma library right outside of Cleveland, Ohio for like 3 or 4 days, pounded through my certifications, all that, got my license, started selling insurance, started doing it in the supplemental market. Similar, that's how we met. And, you know, primarily working in schools, selling things like cancer insurance, accident insurance, heart attack and stroke, life insurance, disability, things like that. It really kind of took off. It really took off. But I noticed that I was relying too much. Like, you know, what if a school cancels? What if there's a snow day? What if there's this? At the time, we didn't have COVID, so we couldn't sign stuff over the phone. So I had to figure out a way to make money. So I started working part-time at Dick's Sporting Goods all through almost all of my beginning 3 years of insurance, just to know that I had this guaranteed money coming in. And they actually let you have dental insurance too as a part-time employee. So that way I had dental insurance as well for me and my family. From there, because I knew insurance was going to pan out. I knew this was what I was doing, and I made it work. Hours upon hours driving 2.5 hours, 3 hours from my house, turning around, having to go back, work a part-time job, go up, wake up, do it all over again. It was a few years of doing that, but it all paid off. You know, as you know, after our, you know, I met you for the first time in Washington, D.C. at the leadership training.
The 212?
212.
Yes.
And shortly after that, I met a guy who was actually my roommate, who said, you know, hey, man, we got some things going on down in South Florida. And I had always wanted to live in South Florida. Ever since, you know, I was a little kid, I wanted to go to Florida. My parents never had.
Hold on. Now, I don't want to jump in, but I want to go back, because I want to make sure that we're extracting some of the key things that you're saying. You were talking about your childhood. And you mentioned, you know, your dad working in the college during the day, then doing the upholstery at night, right? Doing whatever he needed to do to take care of his family. And you said, hey, look, you know, you don't look at these things or appreciate them until later on. But you think about the work ethic, right, that it instilled in you to do what you needed to do for your family. Because you mentioned, hey, look, you know, when I was older, I'm working at, it's kind of ironic. He was working at a college, then you were working at a college too, right?
Yeah, a little bit, I guess. Now thinking about it, I never thought about it like that, but yeah.
You know, when you ended up getting laid off, you know, you said, hey, the insurance is calling. You didn't lay down. You immediately started to look for other opportunities, and you were open to it, right? You were open to that opportunity. My question is, before you started getting those calls, had an insurance career ever crossed your mind?
No. Never
thought about it, right?
Never. It goes back to that old saying: you're either born into it or it finds you. And insurance found me. Nobody in my family sold insurance. Didn't know really anything about it. I just knew I had to pay car insurance, and I had health insurance and all that fun stuff, but never knew that a cancer policy or things like that even existed.
Look, I didn't even know a cancer policy existed when I first started, man. You know, it's one of those things where, like you said, you're born into it or it finds you. It's like, once you find it, once it finds you, right? Once it finds you, it's one of those things where once you're in it, you're kind of in it, right?
Yeah.
And you're not leaving, right?
No.
Like if you get a taste of what it can do for you, then you're like, hey, this is the industry that I'm going to stay in. So, you know, I just wanted to highlight that a little bit for, you know, someone who may have been introduced, who has been getting maybe some calls or seeing some ads or seeing some articles. And, you know, your friend said, hey, look, you know, if there's not any other opportunities, what else are you looking at? You know, right? And really what I hear is, what have you got to lose?
Yeah.
You got to lose by giving it a shot. The other thing that you mentioned was, in your first 3 years, even though, you know, you're having some success, you're kind of finding your way, you're learning the business, starting to build, you still kept that part-time job as well, right? So basically you did the same thing that your dad did. Hey, you know, you're out during the day hitting those schools, and I know those drives. I remember those drives, right? you're there at old dark 30, and you're staying till the end to the, before the first car arrives and after the last car leaves, right? Follow
Absolutely.
first and last out. I remember I got it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you're going through that whole process. And then afterwards, you're saying, hey, look, I'm still going to do, my part-time gig to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do for my family. Once again, it kind of comes back into that work ethic, but it also speaks to the flexibility that insurance allows as well, right? Because you technically could have worked full-time at Dick's, right? And then like on your days off, still worked inside of the business, maybe a couple of days during the week. So I just wanted to hop in there and just kind of highlight a few of those things. But
and to kind of feed off of what you just said, we look at, I guess kind of out of the woods, but maybe not out of the woods yet, but you look at our current pandemic situation and you look at the bad of things, but I think sometimes we focus too much on the bad, not on the good. Had that happened, like during that time, I would have been making individual appointments at night with anybody that wanted to talk about insurance and closing them over the phone or over a Zoom. We didn't have that option back when that was. So, I had to pick up that extra job. But again, I networked with a lot of people. I sold insurance to some people that I met fitting for golf clubs. I mean, it just kind of happened that way. I was working in the right department. Yeah. But yeah, man, it's always something I've had in me. And really, like you said, I mean, no one's ever really listened to my story before, like in depth. And, you're right. I mean, the work ethic was instilled by looking at my father and knowing that in my head about what he had to do for his family. And you're right, man. I mean, I never looked at it before, but I guess I did the same thing. So,
yeah, no, very cool, man. No, so you were all right. Like I said, let's go back. Okay,
let's go back.
Yeah, after the train DC, you had the opportunity to move down to Florida. Okay, boom.
So at the time I was working with Tom, a good buddy of mine. We had started selling that, life insurance and life insurance only. So we started shooting up the ranks in the company, and opportunity came in South Florida. Never thought I would make it there. Ended up taking it. There were some people that I worked with in Ohio that became family, and it kind of was I don't want to use the word sucks, but it sucked having to tell them that I was leaving. But I'm glad I did what I did. Moved down to South Florida, started doing some stuff in the city of Miami, Broward County School Board, Palm Beach, all over the place down there in South Florida under a management. Management gets shaken up after about 2 months that I'm there. And here, a guy who I truly admire, who I was introduced to in Ohio, was moving from California down to South Florida, where he had been previously, to become a regional manager, and I was going to be working underneath him. And we had a new guy who I still, think of, have a lot to really thank for, coming from Vegas to be the state manager. And I said, oh no, I got it good now. I'm like the right-hand man down in Florida. And now all these people are coming. What's going to happen to me? And I'm a firm believer, Rod, of you meet certain people for a certain reason, and things always happen for a reason, because those guys, and I'm going to shout them out, man. Todd, Michael Hogan, Todd Lauer, Michael Hogan.
Great guys.
I mean, dude, they got me to think big. They got me to think bigger. They got me to not doubt myself. Really put me in a position to succeed. And then, things started taking off from there, man. I was living I was living good. I was eating. I wasn't having to work at Dick's anymore. I didn't work at Dick's when I was in Florida.
Oh yeah, y'all were high flying down there. Y'all were the nature boys. Y'all were like the four horsemen.
Yeah, man. I mean, right. So when I was down there, I just got embraced and engulfed in the culture, and became a huge Miami Hurricanes fan just because I'm a huge college football guy, and they were the closest team down there. So you started following them, and then you start getting in with all the different ethnicity that's down there. And then you go into certain schools and you've got to have someone that speaks Creole, someone that speaks Spanish. It was just a great melting pot of America, really. And I just loved the scene. I loved the everything about South Florida. I loved. Was doing really, really well. Now here, was doing well, and had to take a step back for reasons that I'll leave out. Had to take a step back, get a call from Todd and Michael. They want to hop on a conference call. And, another major person in my life is going to be introduced here in a minute. A young guy by the name, I'm going to shout him out, Tucker Doucette. He wants to come over. He's moving from Tampa and he's moving over here. But they're like, Z, he just needs some guidance, man. He just needs some guidance. Will you, work underneath him? Because I couldn't be a manager at the time, had some things going on. And I did. I was excited because I had met Tucker previously, and him and I, man, we really formed a really close bond. He's family to me, and we helped each other out, majorly. And I felt like I've influenced him. He's influenced me, and we built a really good team down there. And I had a lot of fun selling insurance. And then I don't want to harp too much on that because I know we only got an hour, but built a really good relationship and did not want to leave. But again, certain things had happened in South Florida, the pandemic, and then things in my personal life where I came back to Southwestern Pennsylvania because, number one, I needed a change because South Florida is very expensive to live in. Number two, I needed family around me more than ever. And I came back a single father. So, came back and started doing the same exact job, same exact company, back with the exact same person that I started doing insurance with. But it's like, one of those things where you don't, I did it for darn well almost a year, and things just weren't panning out from where schools wouldn't let us in. Just things like that. You go from dropping, going to the schools in South Florida and you're dropping a fish line in a pond full of fish to go into getting a school scheduled, going and dropping that same line into a pond that maybe has 20 people in it instead of 120. Right. So, just couldn't get it going.
Change, culture change.
Exactly.
Obviously, you're in the middle of a pandemic at the same time.
Right. And then also on top of that, I'm a single dad right now of a 13-year-old.
Family is changing. Family dynamics are changing.
Yes. So came back, adjusted, right? Realized what I was doing was not panning out. I needed to think about somebody other than myself. I needed to think about myself other than others being disappointed of me making a career change. So I started looking for other jobs. Started putting my resume out there, things like that. I thought I was just going to go do, I didn't want to do car sales. I knew I wanted to be in sales, right? So I found a couple different companies, but, they just didn't fit. All of a sudden, the company that I'm working with now gives me a call. Actually, no, it was a recruiting agency gives me a call because I had applied for a Medicare sales rep position in the company that I'm working for. I interviewed with the recruiting firm, and the girl said, "Listen, I'm going to throw this out there, but this company that you're interviewing for, they need an agency manager, and you've got the experience, and I think you're selling yourself short. Can I present your resume and a recommendation for that position?" And I said, "Well, listen, I don't know what Medicare, I know what Medicare is, but I've never done anything with it. How am I going to be an agency manager of a Medicare brokerage, right? Or an FMO?" And sure enough, I got an interview, and me and the guy who interviewed me hit it off very well, not only on a business level and a goal setting level, but on a personal level. He had just been going through a divorce, had children, and we connected so personally that I think the business became like almost an afterthought. Had a second interview. That guy liked me as well. But I will say, I would not have gotten that position had I not gotten all the experience from the time I got my license to that moment. I wouldn't have had stories to tell. I wouldn't have had marketing strategies that I put into place, promotional strategies I put into place, different ideas. The previous company gave me all of that. So, and kudos to the people that influenced my life in that company as well. So thank you, man. They took a chance on me. And I'm here where I am now. I'm learning the Medicare business. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. I work with a company here, like I said, South Point, Pennsylvania. It's Cannonsburg, PA, but we have a nice little business park over here called South Point, which has a lot of companies in it. And things are going good, man. I mean, I am back. It's kind of weird going from a 1099 employee to a W-2 plus bonus employee.
There's really no such thing as a 1099 employee, right?
No, right.